Welcome to Dirt Grease Outdoor Peace, where dreams do come true. In this slideshow, I'll be showing you how I built a pond for my sister and my brother-in-law. This was the summer of 2025, started in the end of June. My sister and brother-in-law always wanted to have a pond. At their old house, they didn't have a lot of property, so they just had a small koi pond. They had some frogs in it and some koi fish. Ever since they bought this property, they refurbished an old house, and then another piece of property right next to them came up for sale, and they were able to buy it, and they dreamed about having a small pond. We talked about it the year before. My dad said he'd be willing to let me use his excavator and do whatever they wanted. The moment the truck and trailer pulled in with the excavator, I think my sister and brother-in-law were grinning from ear to ear. And I unloaded the excavator and was coming up the hill, and I think I could see her smile from down at the bottom of the property. They were so happy when we were talking about building this pond. They were both smiling and so happy that it was actually going to happen. Now, up to this point, we had a decent spring. It was fairly mild, but then it was just almost every other day it was rain. Of course, as soon as we started to dig this pond, it got dry and it didn't rain for almost a month, but that was going to change. So near where the pond was going to go, there was this overgrown brushy area that had some junk and stuff in it, so I took the tooth bucket and tore out all this bushes and multiflora rows and got the logs out of there and cleaned that up. So after we went over the layout, they said they wanted to keep the small apple tree on the side, and they didn't want something that was perfectly round. They wanted a little shape to it, so I came up with this kidney bean shape and told them that I can shape it in there and make everything look nice. Of course, it's hard to see the slope of the ground from this video, but from the top side of where the pond is going to the bottom was going to be about 4 or 5 feet on the dam just to be level. So after the layout, which there was nothing even painted on the ground, I just told them what I was going to do, and that they said that it sounded good and they were sure that it was going to come out good. So the first step was to go around and scrape the sod off. And I had the ditching bucket, or the smooth face grading bucket on there. I believe that is a 38-inch bucket. This is my dad's Bobcat E35. As much as I like the tooth bucket, there's something about moving dirt with that big smooth grading bucket when the conditions are right, and there's something about scraping dirt and moving stuff with that bucket that's just so satisfying. Like I said, it did rain a lot, and this area was really wet, so I was having the sod that was sticking in the bucket quite a bit. They have some nice trees up towards the house here. There's a nice big tall pin oak that you see, and they have some apple and pear trees, and their garden is off to the right. Just working my way around the pond and getting the shape down, scraping the sod, and then trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all this sod. I'm just baling it back. Sometimes I'm baling it back and relaying it and pushing it with the blade a little bit. It gets a little messy after a while with all the water that's in there. Getting the shape kind of finalized here, and getting the sod out of the way. This is a picture from the maple trees that are on the northern side of where the pond and the pond dam is going to be. That's a nice picture of basic layout of the shape. I think what I did after, I think I took more dirt or more sod out where the dam was going to go. Now I'm scraping. You can see the way the color changes in the dirt. I'm scraping the topsoil off now and baling that back and getting down to the clay. It's mostly just clean dirt. There are hardly any rocks on the top. As you get down into the clay, you hit a few bigger rocks here and there. It's hard to tell because of the moisture in it, but you can kind of see how much material I'm taking out there. Nice picture of the lower yard there. Here you can kind of see the grade. I think the camera is kind of looking level, like you're kind of eye level with the tracks on the excavator there. You can see the grade a little bit. There's a good shot of seeing the color of the clay showing through the topsoil, and that was one of the bigger rocks that I found. And it took a long time to move all this topsoil. My brother-in-law came over with the little BX and was helping move the topsoil and I think he moved a couple of the rocks. And I have a tractor just like that, a little BX 23S, and I call it the little beast because they don't look like much, but those things can push a lot of material around, and just having somebody else there with you sometimes is keep you going and help make you see the progress. Sometimes it looks like you're never going to get done moving the material. After work, the first day I think I came and got started on the sod and all that, might have been on the weekend. And then I started coming after work and putting in a few hours every evening, bringing diesel fuel and grease with me. There you can see the clay starting to show through a little bit more. You can see a little water coming through, and I think my sister and all of us kind of thought we were in a spot where there was going to be water leaching in, but I think it was just so wet from everything up above. It found a little pocket to leak out of. Now you can definitely see the color of the clay. You can see on where the dam's going to go. It's not really a core trench or a keyway. It's just where I dug down a little extra just to kind of make sure there was nothing in there, make sure I was in good material, and then repack good clay in there. There's another picture of that. So then we start the process of hogging out all the clay and starting to get a little shape on things. Now the top side, I didn't do anything with that at first as far as digging the clay out, because we knew that it was going to be shallow. They wanted this pond to taper up from where the excavator is up to a real shallow entry, almost like if you're going in at the beach where it was just a real slight ramp down into the water. Starting to see a little bit of shape. Just nice to go there after work. My sister was so happy to see me every day, and it was, the sun started to go down and started to get cool, and it's just enjoyable. I love moving dirt with the equipment, and especially ponds. I love making little water holes and ponds and things like that. Start to see a little bit of shape on the dam. Now you can see even more shape on the dam, and I was putting in real short lifts on this. If you're not familiar with dirt work terminology or excavation terminology, a lift is a depth of material, a depth of dirt that you put in, and then you track it or pack it with a compactor, and that ensures that you get good compaction. And then so you keep doing these lifts in stages. You want these track marks, or with a roller, you would want a sheep's foot roller to leave you some texture to pack the next lift into it so everything binds together. That's kind of important. Oh, this is a little concrete bench and table that I got from the property that I maintain. My sister's got that set up underneath that pin oak there, and that's a beautiful spot in the in the spring and summer. Nice view of what's starting to shape up to be a beautiful pond down there. You can see the kind of the shape of the dam, the height of the dam, the view that they're going to have from the house. Nice shot of the slope on the dam. And just continuing to dig out more dirt and refine the shape. My brother-in-law in there inspecting everything. You could see not only the tracks from the excavator, but you could see all the footprints from my sister and my brother-in-law going down there during the day, while I was working, later on after I left, and just, they were just loving every minute of this process and dreaming about sitting next to their pond. Yeah, everything's coming together now, and want to go deep enough where it's a nice sized pond, but not too deep where I get into questionable material and have any leaks. This was excellent clay right here. As I got deeper and deeper, I started getting into a little bit more bony, bigger stones here and there, and I was just afraid to go too deep. Yeah, I'm starting to get a nice shape on the dam. Kind of finalize everything and tracking everything. Yeah, I think we got one. This was probably the first rain that we had got in over at least 2 weeks, I think, and it was just a sprinkle, but it was enough to accumulate in the bottom. So now what I'm doing is, I didn't like how the yard just kind of sloped down into the top of the pond. And what I wanted to do was carry that flat plane from the dam all the way around the top side of the pond and create a bigger, flatter area for them to have their beach. I had mentioned to them about having the beach and have the sand kind of disappear down into the water, and they really liked the sounds of that, so I carved this big flat area out on the top of the pond. Another beautiful sunset. I got the Bosch laser level out, and I'm checking my heights and scrounging some clay here and there and making sure I get it as even as I can within reason. Shaping up pretty good. We got I had most of the final shape of the inside of the pond done, and they, on this other property that they bought, they had a well that they didn't hardly ever use, and it was a long ways from the house well. So they ran a garden hose up to the pond and just had it at maybe not even half open on the spigot, and just let that hose trickle in there 24/7. He had a measuring stick out there in the deeper part there, so we could see how much water we were getting in there. Just playing around with this hose. The hose. So I spent quite a bit more time on the top side of the pond, carving this flatter area out, shaping all this up, kind of giving them a little bit more of a nicer setting around the pond. It made it look like a bigger feature, I guess. I went around with that smooth face bucket and sloped all the sides of the pond in and packed it while I was sloping it, using the bottom of the bucket, pressing down real hard. I did the same thing around the top and sloped that in real nice. You can see the clay soaking up the water from that garden hose they're running in there. Now we're getting ready for the overflow. I guess what I should mention was I ended up using when I first started carving out all that sod and topsoil, I thought, oh my God, what are we gonna do with all this dirt and stuff? I just didn't know what I was gonna need, and I used every bit of it on the back side of the pond to taper the back slope off. Actually, I could have used maybe even another triaxle or so of dirt to make a little bit bigger back slope on the pond and make it a little bit more manageable, but they're not gonna, they didn't plant grass on it, they just put mulch on it, so I think they're gonna landscape it. So we're getting a pipe for the overflow. They're checking their they do their daily check on the water level, see what they're gaining. Yeah, there's a good shot of the back slope. I was tracking in what I could and then going around to the bucket and packing all that in as good as I could. Yeah, there's a shot from the shade trees on the north side. Now I'm getting ready to do the overflow. So we picked out a spot in one of the deeper parts of the pond dam. I think we only went down maybe two or 3 feet from the top of the dam. I could tell I had good compaction. So this is a 12-inch bucket I put on there, and because there's not any runoff or like storm drains or anything that drained into this pond, I wasn't worried about having too big of a pipe in there, so we just did a 4-inch pipe. And I also did an emergency overflow up on the top side in the virgin ground. Yeah, that might be, I think the pipe is about 3 feet down from the top, and then we elbowed that up so we could set the height a little better. We used a good heavy-duty 4-inch pipe for the overflow. Now the other thing is, you can see how nice and wide I made the pond dam so they can mow it and get around it good on the four-wheeler or whatever and enjoy it a little bit more. That's a pretty good shot of the pond, not only the pond and the pond dam, but the flat area on the top of the pond where they're going to put their beach. Pond's starting to fill up pretty good. This is July 1st, so this is let's see, maybe a week or so after I started, of just evenings. I'd go there every evening and work on it, and so this is everything's kind of coming together. And quite a bit of water in there. My sister would go down there every day and every night and look for the first sign of a critter that would be in there, a frog or a toad or anything like that, or see if there was any birds in it, and look for it. Of course, there'd always be deer tracks. Yeah, it's starting to fill up little by little. So they put some good road fabric down, and then they brought in some dump trailer loads of sand, and they're building their beach. Got a bench down underneath the shade tree down there. The overflow is on the right hand side just below the sand, and that was pretty much virgin ground right there, and I dug it, I think it was maybe 4 inches or 6 inches lower than the very back of the pond dam. So it would, if it was too much for the pipe, it would flow out here before before it flowed off at the back of the pond dam. Got their sand in, enjoying their beach. And this was some landscaping they did. This is near the overflow. They got some nice rocks and flowers and grass and stuff. They bought a nice fountain. And they were enjoying every minute of this. It was, I think my sister, once the water started, well, maybe even before the water got up towards the top, I think she was down there wading in the water every day, and just loving every minute of it, feeling that fresh clay, getting mucky with the water and walking around and just enjoying the cool water on a hot day, and thinking about all the plans of what they were going to do with the landscaping. And you can see a little bit of mulch in the foreground there before the rocks, and I think they put mulch on the backside of the pond dam. What a beautiful pond, a beautiful setting. They added a little bit of pond dye, which is it's safe, it's harmless for the animals. It adds a nice color to it, makes it look clean and fresh, and gets rid of that murky look. That's a view from the house. They have their camper sitting down there on the pond, or near the pond. There's a nice shot of the fountain and how pretty the water is. You can see the bench in the background. There was deer tracks in the sand. Yeah, they can sit up on the porch and enjoy the view of that beautiful pond. I think this was one of the first heavy storms that came through after we built the pond. Really glad to get the rain. It had got really dangerously dry around here. Another beautiful late summer sunset by the pond. They moved their camper to a new site there near the pond. The dogs are checking it out. Go for their daily walk around the pond. There's a nice shot of the beach tapering down into the pond. Another beautiful evening on the beach. And then summer turned to fall. and they could watch the leaves change colors and see how the pond was looking in a new season, a new light. Deer tracks in the sand. And then winter came. I believe we got our first our heavy snow in November. I think it was around the middle of November. And then it got cold. Winter came early around here, and it was just a good old-fashioned snowy cold winter up here this year, and the pond is completely froze over now. So thank you for watching Dirt Grease Outdoor Peace. Thanks for coming along and watching the journey of building this pond. I said dreams do come true. My sister and my brother-in-law dreamed about this pond for years. It was so nice to be part of making that happen for them and see how happy they were. It's a process, you know. Nothing is easy, but it just takes time, and you gotta just take your time and do things right, and try not to cut corners. And if you have a pond, or are thinking about building a pond, or want to let me know what's going on in your neck of the woods, do me a favor and leave a comment. Make sure you hit that like button for me and click subscribe to see more content. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.